Hey folks, PC Outcast here, back with another 1-bar solo PVE, PvP, whatever. Probably will get murdered in PvP actually, but solo PVE build for you. This is the Magicka Nightblade, and as you can see I'm wearing a pretty cool outfit. So that hood is from the Witches Festival, and the robe is Mana Marco's, so that's kind of cool. So this build is all points into Magicka. We end up with 41,000, almost 41,500 max Magicka, 16,000 max health, 16,000 max stamina. You might want to play around with the armor a little bit to boost up the health a little bit, because the health is a little low. Magicka recovery is just under 1,000, health recovery 371, and stamina recovery 591. Our spell damage is 2,896 with spell critical of 48.3%. Spell resist is 10,700, and physical resist is 7,200. We are using the Apprentice for increased spell damage, and we're using a tri-stat food giving us health, magicka, and stamina. You can also use, if you boosted up your health, you could maybe use like a recovery one instead, which would probably be pretty cool too. For gear, we have got Magnus set, 4 pieces. We've got the head and shoulders, as well as the staff, which we're using the Inferno staff. The Magnus's 3-set or 4-set bonus gives you max magicka, magicka recovery, and spell damage. If you were able to get the 5th point in there, it would also give you a 15% chance to negate the cost of the ability, the magicka ability, the cast, but that's only a 15% chance, not a big deal. The other set we're wearing is Robe of Julianos, which is the Law of Julianos set. That gives you max crit, or increased critical, max magicka, increased critical, and increased spell damage for the 5-piece. And in jewelry, we're using Willpower, which gives us max magicka and max spell damage. Both the Magnus's gift set and the Law of Julianos are craftable, and the Willpower set is easily obtainable on guild stores. That's where I got it. It's a little bit expensive. So you're looking at around 17,000 gold, roughly. But that's for all for the purples here. You could also upgrade them if you have extra zircon plating. But that would be actually more expensive than just buying it outright. So for the weapon, we've got the infused trait and weapon damage enchantment. On the whole willpower set, we're doing the arcane trait and spell damage enchantment. On the hat and actually I think all of the gear, all of the gear are divines, traits with max magicka. And you might want to swap out, say, the robes, maybe use a heavy chest piece with a health enchantment. That would really boost up your health, probably get you close to, maybe close to 20k actually. And definitely if you put it on like the head or shoulders as well. Any of those are all like large pieces, especially the hat and chest. And for abilities, we are using Unstable Wall of Fire. That is the Unstable Wall of Elements, I believe. Yeah, Unstable Wall of Elements starts out as Wall of Elements, morph it to Unstable Wall of Elements, and because we're using a fire staff, it's fire. Slam your staff down to create an unstable flaming barrier in front of you, dealing 1,300 flame damage to enemies in the target area every second for 10 seconds. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. When the effect ends, the barrier explodes, dealing 6922 flame damage. Next up, we have Sap Essence. This is from the Siphoning skill line. Starts out as Drain Power, morph it into Sap Essence. Siphon the Vigor from your enemy's blood, dealing 62? Okay, I'm jumping from the first number to the last number. 6,700 magic damage to all nearby enemies and healing you and your allies for 2k, plus 20% more for each enemy hit. If an enemy is hit, you gain Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing your spell and weapon damage by 20% for 20 seconds. Very nice. Next up is Dark Shade, which is in the Shadow Tree. It's the last one that you get. Starts out as Summon Shade, morph it into Dark Shade. Summon a Shade version of yourself to attack an enemy and fight at your side for 20 seconds. The Shade slashes at an enemy, dealing 3,400 magic damage, and occasionally whirls all enemies around it, dealing just about 3,100 magic damage. The Shade's attacks inflict minor maim, reducing the enemy's damage done by 15% for 4 seconds. That really boosts up your survivability, especially against bosses with their heavy hits. This ability scales with your highest offensive stats. Next one is Siphoning Attacks. This is in the Siphoning skill tree. Starts out as Siphoning Strikes, morph it into Siphoning Attacks. Imbue your weapons with soul-stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1500 health and restore 106 Magicka for 16 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You restore up to 4200 additional Magicka when the effect ends, based on the length of time the Siphoning Attacks was active. So you basically want to allow that to just run all the way to its end, so you get the extra Magicka back. And basically, you can keep these two up all the time. Like, the Siphoning Attacks cost almost nothing, and Dark Shade is really not that expensive either. Keep them while you're just running around and doing whatever you're doing. Last one is Inner Light. This is part of the Fighters Guild. This we don't actually use it, it's just here, it's just slotted here for the extra Magicka. We get max Magicka increased by 5%, and we also gain Major Prophecy at all times, increasing spell critical. And for our ultimate, we are using Soul Harvest, which is from the Assassination Tree. Starts out as Death Stroke, morph it into Soul Harvest. Ravage an enemy with a spinning attack, dealing 15k magic damage and increasing your damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. Also afflicts the enemy with Major Defile, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 30%. And while slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. So this thing recharges very, very quickly. There's also a, there is a passive ability somewhere in here, we'll go through them in a second, that basically every time you hit an enemy, you gain ultimate as well. So this thing, because it's so cheap at only 70 ultimate, you can fire this off like all the time. Alright, so in the Assassination Tree, we got all the passives. Master Assassin increases your weapon and spell damage against enemies that you're flanking. So this is if you're hitting them in the back or side. This is really nice because the Dark Shade will sometimes attract their attention, so they'll be attacking the Dark Shade because it does qualify as a pet. And then you can hit them in the back or side for extra spell damage. Also increases the duration of the stun from sneak by 100%. So you can sneak, even though this isn't really a sneaky build. If you are sneaking and you attack from sneak, you will also stun, which is really nice. Executioner. When an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, you restore 1800 Magicka or stamina, whichever maximum is higher. And of course our Magicka is very high. So there you go, you get some extra Magicka. Pressure points increases your weapon and spell critical ratings by 438 for each assassination ability slotted. Of course, we only have the one, but still, that's some extra spell critical. Emerge with an assassination ability slotted increases your critical damage by 10%. Dealing critical damage grants you and your group minor savagery, increasing your weapon critical by 1300 for 20 seconds. So we get both major and minor savagery. Super nice. Shadow. We have everything here as well. Refreshing Shadows increases your health, stamina, and Magicka recovery by 15%. Shadow Barrier, casting a shadow ability grants you major resolve for 6 seconds, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,280. This duration is increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor equipped, though right now it's 6 seconds. So if you threw on 1 or 2 pieces of heavy armor, this would actually last a little longer. Dark Vigor increases your max health by 3% for each shadow ability slotted. Of course, we only have the one. And Dark Veil increases the duration of your non-invisibility-based shadow abilities by 2 seconds. So that increases this from 18 seconds to 20 seconds. For siphoning, we have everything except Catalyst. Putting points into Catalyst is probably fine as well. I didn't actually drink any potions while clearing out that public dungeon, but if you do, you're going to gain even more ultimate. Magicka Flood increases your max Magicka by 8% while a siphoning ability is slotted, and of course we have 2. I also have Debilitate, but that's for something else. And for transfer, casting a siphoning ability while in combat generates 2 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds. So because we're casting this and this, that's the passive that's giving us the extra ultimate. For Destruction Staff, we've got all of the passives. Trifocus with a Destruction Staff equipped, fully charged Flame Staff heavy attacks deal 12% additional damage. If you wanted to use a Shock Staff, it would increase damage done to nearby enemies. If you had a Frost Staff, it would taunt them, which you probably don't want for this build. And while a Frost Staff is equipped, blocking costs Magicka instead of stamina. That's probably also something you don't really want. So Flame Staff or Shock Staff, either one of those will work. Penetrating Magic, your Destruction Staff abilities ignore 10% of the enemy's spell resistance. Elemental Force increases your chance to apply the Burning, Concussion, and Chilled status effects by 100%. And as you remember, the Unstable Wall of Fire, enemies take 20% extra damage if they're burning. So this one increases your chance of applying burning. Ancient Knowledge, equipping a Flame Staff increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%. And the Lightning Staff increases your damage done with area of effect by 8%. So this would actually benefit it. The Shock Staff would actually benefit these two more than what we're doing here. And Destruction Expert, when you kill an enemy with a Destruction Staff ability, you restore 3,600 Magicka. Very, very nice. If you can use the, like a light attack or something at the end, or if you just kill them with your Wall of Fire, if they happen to die in that, get a bunch of Magicka back. For light armor, we have everything except Grace. I mean, you can use this. This is just going to reduce your cost of sprint, basically, and reduce the effectiveness of snares. That's nice. 7% on both of those. Evocation increases your Magicka recovery by 4% for each piece of light armor, so we're at 28% faster Magicka recovery. Reduces the Magicka cost of your abilities by 2% for each piece as well. That's 14%. Spell Warding increases your spell resistance by 363 for each piece of light armor, so that gives us 2,541. Prodigy increases your spell critical rating by 2191. And concentration, when 5 or more pieces of light armor are equipped, increases your spell penetration by nearly 5k. Very nice. And if you wanted to do heavy armor, then Resolve, Constitution, and Juggernaut would all be applicable there. For the Mages Guild, I didn't put any points into these because these all require Mage Guild things. I mean, you do have the light, the inner light here, but I didn't max out the Mages Guild. So this would reduce your Magicka and health cost of Mages Guild abilities, but you're not using this one, so that doesn't really help. This increases the duration, also not helpful. Increases your max Magicka and Magicka recovery when an ability is slotted. Now that would actually help. And the second part is probably 2%. So 2% more Magicka, 2% more Magicka regeneration because of having inner light. And the last one, casting a Mage's Guild ability, which we don't do. So really only Magicka Controller if you want to max out the Mage's Guild skill line there. Undaunted, you can also, I also didn't level this up, but you could use, for solo, the Undaunted Metal, giving you an extra 1 or 2% if you want to do some heavy armor pieces. 1 or 2% increase to your max health, stamina, and Magicka. For racial, we got everything, and I'm playing as a Dark Elf, so we got Ashlander. Increases your experience gain with dual wield skill line, not particularly useful. Reduces your damage taken from environmental lava by 50%. Yeah, don't run into a lot of lava, but hey. Dynamic increases your max Magicka and stamina by 1875. Flame resist increases your flame resistance by 2310, and you gain immunity to the burning status effect. And Ruination increases your weapon and spell damage. So that's the most important one for this particular build. And there you go. Let's take a look at champion points. I've got 35 in the tower, 28 for Break Free and Warlord, 7 into Siphoner. When you deal damage to light with light or heavy attack, you decrease the enemy's health, Magicka and stamina restore. 98 in Lover. And we got 49 in Arcanist for increased Magicka recovery. 22 in Healthy for health recovery. 27 in Tenacity. Of course, I'm currently at how many points have I got altogether? I think I'm around about 490, something like that, and I haven't actually spent all my points. Tenacity for increased magic and stamina recovery from your heavy attacks. In the Shadow, we got 13 for Tumbling, reducing the cost of dodge roll, and 13 in Shadow Ward for reduced cost of block. In the Apprentice, we've got 28 in Elfborn for increased critical damage and critical healing with Magicka abilities, 10 in Spell Erosion for spell penetration, and 37 in Elemental Expert, increases your Flame, Frost, Shock, and magic damage done. In the Atronak, we've got 31 in Staff Expert, increases your damage done with light and heavy attacks for destruction and restoration staves. And Master at Arms increases your damage done with direct damage attacks. In the Ritual, we have 37 in Thermitarge, increases your damage done with damage over time effects. In the Steed, we got 40 in Ironclad, reduces your damage taken against direct damage attacks. 10 in Spell Shield, increasing spell resistance. With the Lady, we've got 43 in Hardy, reduces your damage taken from physical poison and disease damage. 43 in Elemental Defender, reduces your damage taken from flame, frost, shock, and magic damage. And 23 for Thick-Skinned, reduces your damage taken from damage over time effects. And nothing in the Lord. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you liked this build, and we will see you in the next video.